Got a quick question for you. Who here has taken the time to actually read through the Gettysburg Address? Come on, I want to see. Okay, I see a couple hands. There we go. A few hands. Well, we have a special treat for you. We have, again, one of our founding or charter members, Pretti Gundecha, coming up to deliver the Gettysburg Address. Pretti this past year recently became what in the Bedford world, our Bedford Toastmasters world, is known as a distinguished Toastmaster. And the Gettysburg Address is by most people, or many people, considered to be one of the most, or if not the most famous speech delivered by an American during a time of war. Lincoln wanted it to reunite this nation. And just coming out of our elections here, we could dearly use the reuniting of our nation. So help me welcome Pretti Gundecha to deliver the Gettysburg Address.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here and bearing the cold. I wish we had a bonfire or some sort of heating system. The Gettysburg Address is a speech that U.S. President Abraham Lincoln gave on November 19, 1863, 4.5 months after the Battle of Gettysburg. It was to celebrate the victory of the Union Army and their victory over the Confederacy. It is known as one of the most famous speeches. What I didn't know and what I learned while trying to study or research for this speech is that there were 5 manuscripts of this address. The first 2, the original, are at the Library of Congress and were given to private secretaries John Nicolay and John Hay. The first draft was written by the president, it is believed, on the train ride, and he made some last-minute changes right before he got on to speak at the Soldiers' National Cemetery. There are 3 additional copies of these, and they were done well after November 19th, and these were for charitable purposes. The first copy it's available at the Library of Congress. Sorry, the first 2 copies are at the Library of Congress, and the next 3 copies that were done for the charitable purposes are available at 3 different places. The first one is at the Illinois State Historical Library. This was done for Edward Everett. He was the famed orator who spoke for 2 hours before President Lincoln gave his speech. The second was done for historian George Bancroft, and this is available at Cornell University. And the third, or the 5th copy, was available, or is available, and it's known as the Bliss copy, at the Lincoln Room in Washington, at the White House. On June 1st, 1865, Senator Charles Sumner, during an eulogy of President Lincoln, said, "It was one of the most monumental speeches given by an American president. The president was mistaken when he said, 'The world will pay little note nor remember what happened here.' Because the world did note and will forever remember what was part of that speech." 272 words. Over 30 years ago, my school principal gave me a sheet of paper, double-sided, and said that I had to memorize and recite that speech in front of the whole school. I remember walking up the stage and being tongue-tied and frozen when I saw hundreds of people that included all the students, teachers, parents, families, uncles, aunts, grandparents, etc. The title of that speech was Abraham Lincoln, and the first sentence started, "Abraham Lincoln is the 16th President of the United States of America. Today, I stand here with my son, who is about the same age when I gave my first speech. And it almost seems like life is coming full circle. So with a lot of emotion, a lot of pride, please help me welcome my son, Rohan, with the Gettysburg Address.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We come to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who died here, and the nation might live. This we may in all propriety do. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have hallowed it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, while it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, we here be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.